They tell you it's smoother. They tell you it saves fuel. They tell you it's modern engineering. What they don't tell you is that some CVTs are built so close to failure that the breakdown isn't random. It's inevitable. No warning lights at first. No dramatic explosions. Just a quiet slipping sound. And then one day, your $10, great deal, becomes a $6 repair bill. This isn't about bad luck. This is about specific models with specific design flaws that keep repeating, year after year. Tonight, we're exposing the worst offenders. Cars that look normal, drive normal, until they don't. Let's begin with number 1. Number 1, Ford Freestyle and Ford 500. The red light lunge. In the mid-2000s, Ford wanted to look ahead of the curve. So they partnered with ZF and installed the CFT 30 CVT into 2 full-size family vehicles. On paper, it sounded advanced. In reality, it was under-engineered. These cars are heavy, add passengers, luggage, daily commuting, and the transmission is constantly operating near its limit. The fatal flaw lies in the high-pressure flow control valve inside the unit. When it sticks open, hydraulic pressure spikes violently. Seals fail. Fluid overheats. Internal components start grinding against each other. And then comes the terrifying symptom owners call the Ford lunge. You're sitting at a red light, foot firmly on the brake. Suddenly, the vehicle jerks forward. That's not driver error. That's hydraulic instability inside a failing transmission. There are no proper rebuild kits. Parts are scarce. Most shops won't even attempt a repair. They recommend full replacement. Replacement cost? Often more than the value of the vehicle itself. That's why these cars are so cheap today. Not because they're a bargain. Because they're a gamble. Number 2, Jeep Compass and Jeep Patriot. The highway shutdown. You buy a Jeep expecting toughness. Instead, you get one of the most infamous CVTs ever built, the Jatco JF011E. This transmission doesn't explode dramatically. It cooks itself. The fatal weakness? Thermal management. It cannot dissipate heat fast enough. Drive uphill. Tow a small trailer. Cruise at highway speeds on a hot day. The fluid temperature climbs, and climbs, and climbs. Once it crosses the limit, the computer steps in to protect the transmission. It throws the vehicle into limp mode. You can be cruising at 70 miles per hour, and suddenly the car drops to 20 miles per hour. No gradual warning. No safe transition. Just instant power loss in traffic. Then comes the sound. A high-pitched whining noise, like a dying vacuum cleaner. That's the input shaft bearings grinding themselves into metal dust. Repair cost? Around $4. Market value of many of these vehicles? Often under $3. When the math doesn't make sense, the car doesn't make sense. Number 3, Mini Cooper, automatic. The $80 mile grenade. The first generation Mini Cooper is fun. Sharp steering. Quirky design. Go-kart handling. But if you bought the automatic version between 2002 and 2008, you didn't buy a transmission. You bought a grenade with a delayed fuse. Mini used a CVT called the VT1. Inside it is a steel belt made up of segmented metal pieces held together by steel bands. Over time, usually around 70.000 to 90.000 miles, those bands stretch and weaken. Then one day, they snap. When they snap, they don't just fail quietly. They whip around inside the casing, shredding pulleys, damaging the housing, and contaminating every internal component. Owners describe it as sounding like an explosion under the seat. And here's the part that makes it worse. BMW labeled these transmissions sealed for life. No service interval. No routine fluid changes. No preventative maintenance. Just drive it until it destroys itself. There were lawsuits, there were complaints, there were settlement payouts. But thousands of these cars are still on the used market today, cheap, stylish, and mechanically dangerous. If it's manual, you're safe. If it's automatic, walk away. Number 4, Subaru Ascent. The overloaded chain. I love Subaru. But the first year 2019 Ascent was an engineering gamble. This is a 4.600-pound, 3-row SUV designed to haul families, cargo, and sometimes even trailers. Subaru paired it with a high-torque 2.4-liter turbo engine and connected it to the TR690 CVT. On paper, the numbers worked. In reality, physics had other plans. When that turbo spools up, it sends a surge of torque through the CVT chain. In a lighter vehicle, that's manageable. In a heavy SUV, the chain is under constant tension. Under boost, the chain can begin slipping against the variator cones. Metal on metal. That microscopic slip creates metal shavings. Those shavings circulate through the fluid and clog the valve body solenoids. Then the symptoms begin. Harsh jerking. Delayed engagement. Refusing to shift into drive. Sudden power reduction. Subaru eventually issued a massive recall, not to fix the hardware, but to reprogram the computer to reduce power output. In other words, they detuned the engine to stop the transmission from destroying itself. Never buy the first model year of a brand new drivetrain, especially when it's moving nearly 2.5 tons. Number 5. Audi A4 and Audi A6. The Multitronic meltdown. German engineering is supposed to mean precision, but Audi's Multitronic CVT became one of the brand's most expensive mistakes. Found in front-wheel drive versions of the A4 and A6, this system used a metal link chain instead of a traditional belt. Stronger on paper, but the real failure wasn't the chain. It was the brain. The transmission control module, TCM, sits inside the transmission housing, submerged in hot oil that can reach 200 degrees. Over time, heat weakens the solder joints on the circuit board. Eventually, the computer literally cooks itself. When that happens, the car develops what owners call the Audi death shudder. You pull away from a stop sign. The car shakes violently. The entire vehicle trembles like it's having a seizure. Because the TCM is integrated into the transmission, you often cannot replace it separately. The solution? A full transmission replacement. Repair cost can exceed $7. If you want an Audi from this era, make sure it says one word on the back. Quattro. Those use traditional geared automatics. The Multitronic? Avoid it completely. Number 6. Mitsubishi Outlander Sport. The budget buyer's trap. Most people don't realize this. Mitsubishi bought the exact same problematic CVT Nissan was struggling with. The Outlander Sport uses the Jatco JF011E, the same transmission found in multiple failing Nissan models. And it carries the same weakness. Inside this unit, the input shaft bearings are made from relatively soft metal. Over time, they wear down prematurely. As they wear, the shaft begins to wobble. That wobble destroys internal seals. Fluid pressure drops. And once hydraulic pressure drops in a CVT, the belt can no longer grip the pulleys properly. It begins to slip, then grind, then fail. The warning sign? A low growling noise that gets louder as you accelerate. Most owners ignore it, thinking it's just road noise. It isn't. It's the sound of the transmission slowly eating itself. Replacement cost often reaches $4 to $5. And here's the painful irony. Most Outlander Sport buyers are budget-conscious shoppers. They bought it because it was affordable. But around 100,000 miles, the transmission demands a repair that costs more than the vehicle is worth. Cheap up front doesn't mean cheap long-term. Number 7. Nissan Altima and Nissan Rogue. The reputation killer. If one vehicle destroyed the public's trust in CVTs, it was this one. Between 2013 and 2018, Nissan produced millions of Altimas and Rogues using the Jatco CVT-8. The failure rate became impossible to ignore. The core issue comes down to oil pressure control inside the transmission pump. There's a flow control valve that can stick. When it does, oil pressure drops. And in a CVT, oil pressure is everything. Without enough pressure, the steel belt cannot clamp tightly against the pulleys. It begins to slip. That slip generates heat. That heat destroys the belt. And once the belt stretches or snaps, the transmission is finished. Some owners have replaced these transmissions 2, even 3 times before 120,000 miles. Dealers love selling them because they look modern and affordable. But beneath the smooth driving feel is a design operating at its mechanical limit. With these cars, it's rarely a question of if it fails. It's when avoiding a bad CVT is smart. But transmission failure isn't the only trap modern car buyers face. We've entered the era of the disposable vehicle. Cars engineered to survive just long enough to clear the warranty period, then quietly begin to self-destruct. There are 5 modern models right now that follow this exact formula. And in the next video, I break down the worst offenders, and how manufacturers are designing cars you're never meant to keep. If you're serious about not getting financially wrecked by your next vehicle, you'll want to see that.